Welcome everyone to our Fun Fridays from the Field with Northeast Iowa Community College's College of Career Connection and our partner Keystone AEA. We're happy you could join us, and we want to welcome Diana Davison, who is a professional photographer, owns her own photography brand. We're excited to talk to her today. So Diana, let's just start with you giving us an introduction to how you got to where you are today. Maybe a little bit about your education, which is one of the questions. So if students are taking notes, they might want to pay attention to that, but would just really appreciate hearing your career story.
Yes. So I graduated from Walk-On High School in 2021. I joined 4-H in 5th grade. When I joined 4-H, I said I was never, ever going to take a photo to the county fair just because it was something that everyone did. And I feel like I've always been outside the box and I never wanted to be like everyone else. So long story short, I found a photography workshop and I went to it, loved it, learned about the Hawkeye Community College program, which is a community college very similar to NICC, except it's in Waterloo, Iowa. And they have a professional photography program that has been around forever, very well known. And so I did a lot of research. I started my own business in 2021, registered legally with the state of Iowa. And I wouldn't say that I have had much guidance going into it. I've kind of just taken a chance on everything and really just been myself. And that's, I think, what has helped me build my brand the best.
Fantastic. And so Diana actually took some headshots of me, and they were fantastic. So and I just got back from a national conference, so those were highlighted there. So you're doing great things, Diana. Why don't you tell us about, so you might work in a variety of locations, right? What does your working environment look like, or how does that change depending on your project?
Yes, so I do not have a studio, so I work from home. I have like a little office set up, but I don't work from a desk every single day. I am very fortunate to be able to, sit on the couch and edit from there. So a lot of my business is actually editing. Yes, I do a lot of photo shoots. I do a lot of weddings, headshots, seniors, weddings, families, all sorts of things. So every environment is different. No wedding is the same. No church lighting is the same. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts and definitely have to be a go with the flow type person.
What are some of the unique locations maybe you've been at before for your profession?
Yes, this May I did an engagement session, and usually I don't let the bride and groom kind of pick. I let them tell me if they want like a nature or more of an urban downtown location area. But this bride specifically wanted nature, and she works for the conservation, so she knows all of the cool places in the county and all over. So she had this location in mind, and we went. She had gone there the week before. She told me that we were going to walk through water. Well, little did I know it was like a 2-mile hike. We walked through water. I had 2 cameras on a harness. I had a light that I was carrying through the water, and I had my rain boots on that are always in the trunk of my car. And I kid you not, my rain boots filled up, and I was walking through this creek. It was so much fun. The pictures were amazing, but that was definitely an interesting experience.
That is a fantastic story. So one of the lessons today might be, as a photographer, you need to, be ready to do what your clients are asking you to do, even if that's, wading through water.
Yes. And I definitely think something very important is building that trust with your clients and your clients trusting you as well.
Okay, we're kind of getting into those employability skills. Trust sounds like a big one. Do you have some others that, you're working with people all the time? So what are those things that, if you want to go into this type of career, would really be important to think about?
Patience, I definitely think, is very important, especially on wedding days. There are people that, and not saying that you have to go into weddings by any means. When I started, I was like, oh my, I'm not doing weddings, but here I am. I love them. They're so much fun. There's some days where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. But Yes, I love weddings. Patience is very important. Listening, what the bride tells you to do, what the bride wants. Maybe it's not exactly what you want, but you can um, comprehend and, you know, work together to meet in the middle.
So maybe some compromise and collaboration there too, it
Yes,
sounds like would be
absolutely.
important. So interpersonal skills, like very important. What about the technical skills you need to do? You're talking about carrying your equipment and editing and all of those things. Are those, I'm guessing you learned those in college, or are those things you kind of learn on your own as well? What kind of technical skills would students need?
Yeah, so the main programs that I use is Lightroom Classic and Photoshop. I did learn a lot of techniques at Hawkeye Community College, which I definitely think was super important and crucial to my career in my business, and I was able to build my editing brand through college. But not saying that you have to go to college to be a business owner. You don't have to go through the photography program to own your own photography business. Yes, it is another huge step in life. It is another huge credential, but it's not make or break. Nobody's going to be like, oh, you didn't go to college, so I'm not going to let you take my photos type thing. But I definitely think that's another huge trust aspect in your clients trusting you, your clients having faith in you type thing.
Do you think it made you more confident as a photographer and a business owner to have that experience going through the program at Hawkeye?
Yes, absolutely. And you build, it's such a small knit community as well. So you have those lifelong friends. Not saying that you have to be friends with everyone in your program, but if you have a question, like they're going to answer. And I still talk to my instructors probably monthly. We have Facebook groups and all that kind of stuff. I definitely think like photography can be a very lonely um, career as far as, you know, like I said earlier, you do a lot of shoots and that kind of stuff, but a lot of your time is spent alone in back work, editing, running your website, all that kind of stuff.
That's another consideration I wouldn't have thought of previously. So it's great to have that network of colleagues you can reach out to and just say like,
Absolutely.
hey, how would you handle this? Or, you know, those sorts of things. Fantastic.
Absolutely. And it's really nice to have somebody to bounce ideas, answers, all that kind of stuff off of.
So
And for
one of our
weddings, oh,
questions,
go ahead.
you sorry, go ahead.
So for weddings, if you need like a second
Yeah.
shooter or something, those are also really good friends to pull from and that kind of stuff. And you've seen how they work in school. So now are they going to show up on time for your wedding day and that kind of stuff too?
That's a great point as well. Sometimes you can't do it all alone.
Right.
So one of our questions is different career opportunities, and we're going to have to take probably a different spin on this, but are there other, you know, it sounds like you're mostly working with people with, you know, headshots, senior photos, weddings. What are some other opportunities, and maybe you saw this at Hawkeye, that you could go into in the photography field?
Absolutely. So when Hawkeye is a 2-year program, so the first year you do all your basic classes as far as like camera one. You have one semester where you have to do one class of film, which I struggled with, which I think is so important and so interesting as far as learning how to develop in the darkroom and that kind of stuff. Then your second year, when you come back in the fall, you choose commercial or portrait. I went portrait. I knew from the very beginning I was going portrait. I struggle with commercial a lot, but I think commercial is so much fun. And if you're more of like an introvert, you don't want to work with people type thing, commercial is for a lot of those kind of people, but not saying that you're not going to work with people, but it's a lot of the times like you and a coffee mug that you're taking pictures of or food. But commercial can also be portraits as far as like, for example, the University of Iowa Children's Hospital, those doctors, they need headshots. That's technically commercial work. So
Interesting. I had no idea there were the two pathways.
yeah, absolutely. And magazine covers, as far as like Better Homes and Gardens, Magnolia, so many different things. Those are all commercial work. And Meredith Corporation is a huge one that produces Better Homes and Gardens, the quilts and the magazines, all that kind of stuff that is in the state of Iowa in Des Moines.
So they hire photographers, I'm guessing, from the Hawkeye program?
Absolutely. Yeah. They send emails yearly. They're like, hey, do you have any commercial graduates that we can hire? And so Hawkeye has a lot of like ins with everyone. So I think that is super important. You build that trust right away. You build that connection. Yeah.
So that way, if you're not interested in working for yourself, there are other avenues into that
Absolutely.
photography career. Oh, that's fascinating. Okay, interesting. I want to remind the students too, if you have questions, put them in the chat and we will definitely get to those. Our time goes fast with 20 minutes, but we want to make sure if you have any really important questions that we get those answered for sure. So thinking about you started in 4-H, we're not going to do photography, took a class workshop. Oh my gosh, I love photography. If a student is interested in photography or maybe anything more in the kind of arts field, what would you recommend that they take in high school that would be helpful? Or as a business owner too?
Absolutely. In high school, my freshman year, I was still anti-photography. I was kind of coming over the bridge a little bit. My brother was really involved in sports. So I would go to the basketball games, I would go to cross country meets, and I would take pictures. And then my sophomore year, I joined the yearbook team. And that was like life changing, I feel like. So my brand was essentially built on sports photography. Friday night football games. One of my senior classmates had an article published with the University of Iowa, and they stole my picture actually, but it was so cool, and I was just like astonished that they chose that picture, and it was so cool. I 100% would recommend joining the yearbook team, and I didn't take any art classes up until my senior year, but I was taking some graphic design classes my senior year, which was super helpful. And any business classes as far as like general business, those are super important. Hawkeye, our last, or maybe it was our second year, we did a business class that was based on just portrait business. So as far as like, how are you going to establish your portrait packages? How much money do you want to make a week? And then how many sessions do you have to have a week to make that money? And so on and so forth. So definitely any art classes that have design, yearbook, anything that can get you a camera in your hand.
It's too bad you didn't get credit for that exposure on that sports photo for the
Yeah, I
University
did
of
email
Iowa.
them and I said, hey, if you choose to do this again, I'd love to have credit. But yeah, they apologized and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But I'm just like, I just thought it was so cool that they chose that picture.
That is really an honor. It really is. So it sounds like you love your job. So tell us your favorite things. I'm sure you could tell us a lot of things you love about your job, but tell us your favorite things. And if there are any parts you don't love so much, can you tell us about those too?
Yes, absolutely. So my career is 100% what I make of it. So for example, this month, the month of December, I don't have many shoots scheduled just because I wanted to get caught up with the holidays. I wanted to get caught up on editing. I wanted to get ready for the new year. But with my weddings and my seniors and that kind of stuff, I can build my brand around that, and I can build their payments around that to still be essentially making money in December, but not working with clients in December. So 100%, again, what I make of it. There are no rules per se of what I specialize in or what I choose and that sort. So I definitely think that that is super cool. So say I don't want to do families or I don't want to do newborns, I don't have to. I can do weddings, I can do seniors. But don't get me wrong, I love newborns and I love families as well. So yeah, and when I first started, I did absolutely everything. Like I said, I did sports pictures, just you name it. If anybody needed pictures, I'd answer the phone. And I'm still kind of that way just because I think photos are such a huge timestamp in life. You know, when I was growing up, the last time that we had family pictures taken was in 2008. And then we had them done again this year, which is a huge, huge gap. And it's kind of crazy because I'm a photographer and we don't even have family pictures. But I think that is super important. And it definitely like shows you where you're at in your life. Now, some things that I don't exactly like about the career are some things that are a little bit more difficult. It can be a very, very competitive industry. And I don't find myself the most competitive. I'd rather build community over competition. So it's, again, kind of creating that relationship with the other people in your industry. I'm in Elmwood County, so just in Walk On alone, we have 2 studios downtown, and there's I'd say probably 3 other photographers aside from those 2 downtown that have Walk On addresses, which again, those are people that I hold near and dear to my heart. They're my friends. They're not my competitors. Yes, we're in the same industry. Yes, we do a lot of the same stuff, but we're different people, which I think is super important.
I'm guessing when people are looking for a top photographer, they're looking for maybe a certain personality or a certain style. So you need a variety of photographers. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. And there are some people that do nothing with studio light, which is totally okay. When I started, I didn't even know how to use a studio light. So that's like kind of one little area. People just use studio light. That's another little area. And then people that use both is also another huge thing. And then what are you specializing in as well?
Excellent. Well, how would you like to show off your website and some of your work? Because I think we would love to see it. We're still open to taking those questions too, students, if you have them. And maybe as Diana shows off some of her work, you'll come up with some questions that you would like to ask her. So go ahead, Diana. I'm going to turn it over to you. You can share.
Let me see if I can figure this out. Maybe. Okay, I think we're getting there. Can you see my website?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So let me see if I can minimize you guys. Okay, so when you open up to my website, this is kind of the first page that you see. I would say my style is very true to tone, true to life, and a little bit more classic and a little bit more bold. I love pops of color. Yeah, so this picture specifically is at Wartburg College. They both were graduating. This was one of my seniors, an engagement session, family session, family, a wedding I did in May, senior. This was at the Iowa State Fair, wedding. I also do branding sessions. So this is Jess, she owns Aztec Parlor in Walk On. And so I kind of just captured a little bit of her day in the life, another wedding.
So you do a little traveling. You've been to the Iowa State Fair. Have you been to any exotic locations, or is that something you're open to? Like, hey, I'm going to have a wedding in Mexico. Will you come be my photographer? Have you done any of that or open to that?
Yes. So I would love to get into traveling as far as destination weddings and that kind of stuff. But it's another whole industry in itself. So kind of how people get into that is usually saying like, hey, if you're getting married at Colorado Springs, I will shoot your wedding for free. So it's kind of also like super important to know people in that aspect. My grandma's biggest thing is always saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I couldn't say that that's more true. It's so important. Building connections is very, very important on building a brand. Yeah, so I still have not done an engagement or a wedding in a, I guess, destination, but I think it's like on my bucket list. This was the engagement session that was across the creek. We actually crossed the creek 2 times, but it was so much fun. Would do it again.
It's so beautiful too. You're right. She did scope out some great locations.
I have been to Texas. This was at the Texas Miss United States Agriculture pageant. So what that was kind of event photography as far as, let me see if I can come back to the Zoom. So my mom and I, we loaded up, we drove to Texas. It was 17 hours. We broke it up into 2 days. And it was on Friday was check-in, meet and greet, interviews. And then, so they compete in a few different areas. And before I was into photography, I competed in this pageant in Iowa and I won the state title and went to nationals in 2020. So then I did like all of the stage photos, headshots, group photos, that kind of stuff. And then this year I went to the Midwest. I went to Midwest last year as well, but Texas and Midwest had the same dates this year. So I didn't do Texas this year, which was okay with me because it was a long month last year.
Well, that's good. It sounds like you're on your way to finding that network for sure. And maybe ag is a niche area for you, it sounds like, which because of your connections there. So
Yes, agriculture is super important to me. We have a family farm, and so sometimes I get to take my clients out there, and if they're up for a nature shoot.
very nice. Well, we appreciate your time, Diana. I think we all learned a lot. I know I did about the field of photography and what it's like to own your own photography business, and even about the education that is possible behind being a photographer. And so, yeah, we appreciate your time. Thank you for being our guest today on the Fun Friday from the Field. And we look forward to future sessions with NICC's College and Career Connection. Have a great day.